Hello, friends, loved ones, and yours, and welcome to court. I will be the presiding judge today. My name is David, and welcome. Today we will go over the crimes of 10 different defendants. Their crimes? Murder. It will not be easy to reach a conclusion today, but justice rarely is. So first, a little background. What are we talking about? Today we're talking about MILGRAM. I hope everyone knows what MILGRAM is, because MILGRAM is the coolest thing pretty much ever. MILGRAM is a song project by Deco27. It is a study into morality. It's a study into morality, justice, and whether or not one is able to forgive. The human capacity for kindness, resolution, and forgiveness. Some may be familiar with the MILGRAM experiments that were run in the 70s, I believe it was, which once again measured a person's capacity for cruelty in a fixed setting and how far that would be able to influence one to do harsh actions, testing their humanity, their ethics, and their ability to forgive. MILGRAM looks at 10 people through 10, well, pretty much 11 songs, but pretty much 10. It looks at the actions of 10 people, and we, the audience, we, the viewers, are tasked with voting on Twitter whether or not we think we should forgive or condemn the people for what they have done. Each song presents us with a person, a story, a crime, and asks us to find an answer. So, today we are going to look at each one of them. If you don't know the songs, you definitely should watch them because they're all really good. But even if you don't, I will surmise what everyone's story is, what their crime is, and everyone will come on a journey where we decide whether or not we are going to forgive and condemn them. Also, additionally, this is something that I feel is often missed, but the point of MILGRAM is to conclude whether or not we are going to forgive or condemn people. However, just because it is a sort of necessary accessory to the conversation, I will also talk about whether or not they should be innocent or guilty. So we will look at two rulings for each person. Send a prayer. Two rulings. We will look at whether or not someone, Finger, is worthy of innocence or guilt, and then whether or not we personally should forgive them or condemn them. We will go over 10 people, 10 songs, 10 prisoners, and 10 trials. And we're all gonna make some hard-hitting decisions. Hello, hello, hello. Okie doke. So, first to take the stand is one young man by the name of Haruka. So, what is Haruka's crimes? What is Haruka's story? What is Haruka guilty of? Haruka is a young man. His age, I don't really know, nor do I really care. And I don't know how to do a chat poll, the Kagura Pro 24, but if someone could, I guess I could like straw poll it. Yeah, maybe straw poll it by the end. Just an idea, not a bad idea at all. But let's go over the story of Haruka. So, for the uninitiated, Haruka is a young man who suffers heavily from mental illness. No, this is not Haruka Kokonose. He is a young man who has a horrible case of arrested development. He is definitely guilty of murder, the details of which are a little misconstrued. So it is not clear, really, if Haruka's crimes... I'm going to do this. Whoa. Let's do this. Yeah. There we go. It's not clear, really, if Haruka's crimes... the details they're in, right? Haruka is guilty of murder, as is everyone. It is debated whether or not Haruka he has at least killed a dog. Not a good place to start. He has the very least killed a dog, and is likely guilty of the murder of a young woman, a young lady, of which he was at once friends with. There was definitely a sort of ongoing debate as to whether or not Haruka was guilty of killing his mother or a friend. Over time, it definitely seemed as though it was his friend, but over time I've definitely sort of joined the team of saying it's more than likely not that he is guilty of killing his friend. So, Haruka is this person who suffers from a crime of innocence, right? He is someone who has a stunted emotional development that has resulted in him having these incredibly childish tendencies and this strong, strong need for acceptance, this strong, strong need for comfort. When he was young, he fit in relatively normal because he was a child. And like all children, he didn't stand out. This sort of innate innocence did not make him strange. However, as he grew, he reached a point where these childish actions, this sort of need to continue to act out because he could not grow, resulted in him taking horrible actions that also at the end of the day resulted in the death of a dog and young lady. So with Haruka, the question of morality, right, is whether or not you can forgive Haruka because he is very, very, very clearly not well. When we look at some of the other characters, their mental state is going to come into question a little bit, right? It's not always going to be that someone is entirely cogent. For some people, it will be that they're entirely cogent, and that's the interesting part. Haruka is not well. He is someone who has this very obvious, very gripping sense of inability about him, right? He is not mature. He is not mature, and it seems that he is not capable of being mature. So can that be held against him? Well, is he guilty of murder? That is undeniable. Yes, I do know the brother theory, Nicholas, and I don't believe it. I definitely think that the small boy that we see in Weaknesses PV is, in fact, Haruka. That's not his younger brother. I do think it is him reflecting on himself. But yes, I think that he is undoubtedly guilty of murder. There's nothing that anyone can say whether he could be tried for mental illness. Like he would probably not be, if he was put in a court of law, right? He would unlikely be sentenced to extreme things because he's very, very clearly of a bad mental state. However, he undoubtedly, out of nothing but malice and spite, killed an animal and at least one living being. The much more interesting question is whether or not you can forgive Haruka. And this is where I will sort of introduce a line of thinking that I have, generally speaking, for most of the people, where I think the single most important factor on whether or not I, as judge, jury, and executioner here, forgive someone for what they've done, is if they express remorse, right? And of course, that ties into severity. Haruka has done something very severe. He has killed a person and a dog. That's not good. Yes, the brother theory, I can talk about at the end. I don't believe that at all. But he has done something extremely severe in having taken the life of an animal and another person. But Haruka expresses incredible guilt. He is incredibly guilty. He totally, internally, understands that this was his fault, that everything he did is only the result of his own weakness, as his songs is entitled Weakness. That is the name of his song. He is very obviously aware of his own deficiencies. And that is what I find most interesting about him, is that he does not at any point front whether or not he is at fault, whether or not there's someone else to blame for his actions. And that's the most important thing, right? When you look at Haruka, you see someone who is cogent, and that brings us sort of to the other important question, I think, on whether or not someone should be, on whether or not someone's innocent or guilty, and is that how likely are they to do this again? That isn't the other big question, right? The two questions that I think will end up with most of my verdict are: do they feel bad? Is someone cogent enough that they understand that they've done wrong, if they've done wrong? And do they feel bad about it? And two, how likely are they to do this again? And for the first one, it's very clear that Haruka feels bad. He feels awful about everything that has happened. Is he going to do it again, though? That's where things get a little complicated. Haruka is unwell. He is someone who is very, very profoundly unwell. But because of that, how much can he trust himself? That's the interesting question, right? It's not, is he in a state in which you can trust what he's saying? Because I definitely believe Haruka when he says that he feels guilty, that when he thinks about everything he's done, that he really does sincerely believe it's his fault. That's why at the end of the PV, he can be seen murdering himself. Some people say it's his brother. I definitely think it's himself. He can be seen murdering himself because that's how much he hates himself. That is a crystallization of his self-hatred. But because he's so unwell, because Haruka is so broken mentally, even if he says he understands that everything he's done is wrong, this is someone who definitely would do the same thing again, I think. Without intervention, without getting some help, if he was put in another situation where he was on this fringe thing, this fringe scenario in which he felt like it was all or nothing on whether or not someone would love him, I could totally see that he would do the same thing again, because he's not in control of himself. That's part of being a child, is that he is not, there's a profound lack of control, right? And that's the tragic thing about Haruka. So we have a yes and a no in terms of the innocence and guilt. So before I'll talk a little bit about extra theories about the story going forward. But before we do that, I would first like to express that I think Haruka is guilty of murder. Of that, we simply can't deny. There's no real defense that he is innocent in a strictly legal sense. However, I do forgive him. I do think that you can't really spin in any way that Haruka is not responsible for the life he has taken. However, that being the case, I think he does not deserve a slap on the wrist. He does not deserve to be put down. I think he needs help. He is someone that very clearly has a number of things wrong with him, and a underlying theme of his story is neglect. When you look at weakness, and when you look at the questions Haruka answered on Twitter, there reflects a very strong desire of wanting to be loved. This feeling that he has this lack for him, this lack, this want. And that is very reflective of something that he's missing, but something that I don't think is irreconcilable, right? I think Haruka can be helped if he got help. So I do not condemn him. And to clarify here, the important part is the second part. The thing that MILGRAM is really asking of us, the audience, is the second part. Whether innocent or guilty, that I'm just doing because I think it's interesting. But I think the much more important part, the part that we're supposed to vote on, is the second part. And I definitely think that I forgive Haruka for what he did, despite how gruesome and how bad it is. Now, to address just some things here, just some things external to the morality, this song's amazing. Weakness is probably my favorite song. It's definitely in the upper echelon, right? There's a couple of songs that I would have to think harder than I am right now on saying what I can about it. Nicola, if you just Google, and by Google I mean if you go on YouTube and search MILGRAM Weakness, or just search MILGRAM in general, I'm pretty sure it will come up. All of the songs are on the official MILGRAM channel, and they all have subtitles in English, like official subtitles on the English, in English. This is universal for all the songs. So by all means, if you haven't seen it, this is an unbelievably good song. And I also really love the layers of it. I love the complexity that has gone into the video. I think Weakness might have the best video. Maybe second to, gosh, I don't remember the name of the song, but Amine's song might be a contender for being better than Weakness, but it's phenomenal. I think that from a compositional standpoint, from a art standpoint, Weakness is it's up here, right? it's a great song. I'm taking the Aino scarf off because it's hot. I just wore it because I like Aino. 1 second. Yeah. Justice. Heroes. Yeah, so that's good. Now, interpretations. There are various interpretations here in terms of what's actually happening. A part of MILGRAM is unpacking what we're actually being told. With some characters, it's very, very easy to tell what's happening. For some, it's a little more difficult. This is one of the cases. I think the two main, it's called Magic, right? Amine's song. For the two main interpretations that I think are most prevalent is that it is so much cooler without that scarf on, by the way. But two. First, that Haruka either kills his mother or his friend, and two, that the boy featured in the PV is either himself or a younger brother. I think that, on the first count, I think it's his friend, not his mother. When you look at Haruka's questions that he answered about himself in the MILGRAM app, he says his family is like rather. He speaks about his family and says that he's living with his mother, and I feel like there probably would have been some sort of disconnect between how he refers to his family if he did in fact kill his mother. The way there is when he talks about his dog. He references loving animals, but like there's a duality in how he refers to how he feels about animals, which is because he killed a dog. So I definitely think that it's more than likely that the woman featured is his childhood friend that has grown up and not his mother. And on the other hand, is it him or his brother? I definitely think it's him. I definitely think the younger boy featured in the PV is Haruka. At one point, I used to prescribe to the other theories, but having combed over the content a little bit more, I definitely think that it's his brother. Sorry, that is not his brother. That it is him. Haruka's his whole thing is about childishness. It's about reflecting on himself as a child, and because of this, I think that he sees himself as a child, and that's the idea. He thinks back to his own childhood and his own actions and characterizes himself as still being young because his whole thing is childishness. Angry Goat, his stance on animals is that he says he does not like animals, but I'm pretty sure that is because he killed the dog. I think that is a reflection of that part of his psyche, so to speak. So, that is Haruka. I think he is guilty, but I forgive him. I think he's just kind of doing his best with a pretty bad scenario, to be honest. Now things get a little more divisive. Haruka, you may leave the stand. We'll come back to you later. Things definitely get a little bit more divisive when we move on to the person after Haruka, and that is a young girl by the name of Yuno. Oh boy. So there's a lot to unpack with this girl. Yuno is a woman who is a high schooler, and let me tell all of you a little bit about a thing called compensated dating. You may or may not know what that is, being, as I'm sure you probably all are fans of Japanese media, you probably might know what it is, but compensated dating is sort of light prostitution, so to speak. That's maybe a little bit of an excessive way to describe it. It's kind of more like escort services, where someone can pay to have someone, usually a youthful or otherwise attractive lady, go on a date with them. It is compensated dating. It is usually not romantic in the sense that this is a transaction. There's no real idea that there's anything greater going on here. It's definitely a transaction, and whether or not it is physical or romantic, that is definitely, it comes and goes. I'd say on paper, most of the time, it's not really a physical relationship. Not so the case with girl boss Yuno here. So Yuno's story is fascinating. Her song is called Umbilical, and it tells the story of this girl who, she is in the MILGRAM project because she is murdered. And this is where things get a little interesting when we talk about definitionality. Yuno's murder is that she is a serial abortioner. And now there is a little bit more nuance to that, but she does compensated dating, and she definitely engages in sexual activity. Right, so there's compensated dating, but she is very clearly having a physical relationship with these people, probably as a result of a way to make money. Now, her murder is that she has had multiple. It is strongly implied that it's multiple. You could say it's one. It's at least one abortion. Now, complicating this a little bit is the detail that Yuno is definitely, or is more than likely, not having this done over the table, right? In Japan, getting an abortion done is actually quite difficult, it's legal, but there's quite a lot of stipulation. There's a lot of like things, a lot of prerequisites that go into whether or not you can, whether or not someone is actually like capable of having an abortion, whether or not they will do it. And in Yuno's case, there's a lot of details that, most importantly, that the other party, the party that is not the woman, the father, so to speak, needs to sign off on the abortion in order to have it done. And there's lots of details indicating that that is probably not the case, given the fact that she is a high schooler doing compensated dating, and that is very much not allowed by most schools or the law in a lot of cases. So Yuno is likely, more than likely, had under the table or maybe even self-induced abortions in it because of her of compensated dating. Now, this of course goes into two interesting things. First of all, you need to consider whether or not there is a crime has been committed here, and that's of course the interesting question. Now, thankfully, that's not the point of MILGRAM here, or else that's the big debate. But I think for Yuno, it's a fairly simple story, right? It's definitely not nearly as detail-packed as it's definitely not as detail-packed as Weaknesses in terms of like complexity. It's that there's a girl, she's somewhat engaging in sex work, and she has had multiple abortions. Now, has a crime been committed here? Not really. She has not really done, she has not bludgeoned a dog to death with a rock or anything, the way that Haruka has. Has a crime been committed? Probably not. But I think the much more interesting question is whether or not I forgive Yuno, and this also is interesting. I think that there isn't really much to forgive in the sense that Yuno hasn't really committed a crime, so that's that. However, I don't think Yuno's a good person, which is the conversation, or that I think is more interesting here. So, kind of on the broad here, I will just put this up just because I think it's obvious that Yuno is innocent, and just because the legality of whether or not a crime has been committed, it's not really like that. I suppose I forgive her, but that's not. All of that is set dressing for the broader point, or the not broader, but the much more narrow point I want to make. That I think Yuno has problems as a person, right? So the interesting thing about Umbilical, which is the song here, also a fantastic song, by the way. I think the composition is great, and I think the delivery of, I don't know who Yuno Seiyu is, but the delivery of the song is fantastic. But Yuno is portrayed as being phony, which again is not a problem, right? It's Yuno, but Yuno has this disconnect where she is not happy. She's not actually a happy person. It is heavily implied through the text that she's performing happiness, which is the most interesting thing about her. And she is performing happiness out of what appears to be a lack. When you go into the information that's been presented about her in the app, you find out that she doesn't have a father, which would lead her to pursue sort of the attention of more masculine figures in her life, because she doesn't have a father and has never had a father. But there's definitely a very clear duality when you look at Yuno when she is alone and Yuno when she is with clients, where Yuno as a person appears to be very much not happy. Yeah, she definitely has an emptiness in her that she attempts to fulfill with this sort of thing, with this through compensated dating, through having people like pay to be close to her just because she's cute. And at the end of the day, that is never rectified, right? She goes through this debate of, this series of things, and she has her abortions, and it's also heavily implied that after she, is found to have found herself pregnant with someone, right? After that happens, that these clients stop seeing her. And that kind of makes sense, right? It's not good, but that definitely makes sense, right? That these people that once they find out that they're little fun thing is suddenly this big moral obligation that these people who are paying to spend time and have sex with this high schooler would go away, right? So she's in this vicious cycle where there's a longing in her heart that leads her to go pursue others who don't really care about her, and then when she becomes inconvenient, she is dropped. But because she does not really know what else to do, she just does it again and again and again and again, and she's in this cycle. And that's fascinating. So, really hasn't committed a crime per se. Like, she just hasn't. That's not debatable. And in terms of, because she hasn't not committed a crime, it also sort of forgoes by default whether or not someone forgives her or not. But there's if you look at how she was voted, because the voting has happened, the preliminary round of voting happened for very on the fence. Haruka was extremely voted innocent. Is very much, she was voted guilty, and it was in contention the whole time. And I think where this resentment comes from is this part of that is not well. And at the end of the day, she's still committing the same mistakes, right? She ends the song still going like, I need something else. I need something else. There's something lacking in me. This warmth is gone. People keep abandoning me. So I'm just going to do it all again. And it's this lack of a desire, a lack of an ability to learn, contrasted with Haruka's immense, overwhelmingly crushing guilt of, it's my fault, I did everything wrong. Just is oblivious to the fact that she's in this cycle. And that, I feel like, to try and explain what the mixed reception from a lot of the viewers comes from. So, do I think she's innocent? Yes. Come on now. Come on now. Especially when we look at the rest of the characters in a lot of the other songs. The murders are pretty intense. There's a lot of very explicit, very bad murder, and comparatively, giving yourself an abortion or 5 is not the craziest thing in the world. But Yuno's final verdict is innocent. Wow, she was guilty for a long time. Well, that's interesting. But she's not a murderer in the same tier that many of these other people are murderers, but. And through no fault of her own per se, but she really has some things wrong with her. Not that other people don't, of course, but that's the intrigue in Yuno. That's the sort of soul of her thing. So once again, kind of forgiven by default, and I do think she's innocent. Now here is where things start to take a turn for the amazing, because Yuno, you may leave the stand. You did well. Thank you. Thank you and good night. Now we move on to what I can only describe as a top-tier homie. And that is Futa. So let me tell you about Futa. You have all probably heard at some point or another the term canceling and cancel culture. Well, Futa loves that stuff. Futa is also an interesting character where we get into the realm of, rather than weakness, which focuses on, there's definitely bad murder here, but how do we feel about it, right? Haruka, definitely big murder man, rock, but we as people have the capacity to go, well, Haruka had this, and this wrong with him, right? Definitely dipped into the realm of less murder man. Didn't really kill people. But she's got some problems. So how do we feel about that? Futa is another one where we go, let's define murder, right? How are we going to define what is murder or not? So Futa is a Seigi no Mikata, so to say. He is a boy that very much believes in justice. He does not like it when people are bad. And the way that he takes action, the way that he represents justice for himself, is by canceling people online. It's a very interesting sort of terminology, very interesting line of reasoning for him. But he finds people that are bad, and he sort of starts an internet witch hunt on them until he cancels them into oblivion and ruins their life. And this is how Futa enacts justice, right? And his song is called Bring It On, and is an amazing, amazing piece of music. And where the murder comes in is that Futa is a young man who loves justice. However, he reaches a point where eventually he cancels someone so hard that they kill themselves. And Futa realizes that he has caused someone to kill themselves, and that's not really what he wants. He never wanted someone to die, to like pay for their crimes with death. He only wanted them to be canceled online. It's a little ridiculous, but it's a fascinating point of debate here. And induced suicide, so to speak, is going to be a recurring theme when we look at the characters here. Now, we have to ask, is Futa guilty or innocent? Now, inducing suicide is a crime, right? That's definitely something that can be presented as a crime. You don't have to literally pull the gun on someone for you to be a murderer. Just look at the Manson trials, for an instance. Manson never killed anyone specifically, but he did cause all of his followers to go and commit heinous acts of violence. So that doesn't preclude Futa from crime. However, I definitely do think that from a baseline, Futa is not... I don't think he has done enough that you could in really any way point at him and go, murderer. And a big part of that is that while he is presented as sort of the person who starts things, it is also very presented rather explicitly that he is never alone, right? He doesn't cancel someone on his own. He stirs up the mob. He does a witch hunt. And there's plenty of people that furthermore believe and support his ideals, as is presented in the imagery like what was just on screen now. So, Futa's actions and the canceling resulting in someone killing themselves, I definitely don't think is a legally actionable justification for murder. And now we have to sort of step back and look at the two criteria, right? Do you feel bad about what you've done, and how likely are you to do it again? I didn't really ask these questions for Yuno because Yuno's just a whole different can of worms here. The loss of human life is not as measurable as it is definitely in weakness and here in Bring It On. But very important, Futa feels awful about what he did. I think that is rather obvious by some imagery later on in the song where he sees the news that the person who he was pursuing is now dead, and he is very obviously paralyzed, very obviously shaken by the events. He did not mean for suicide. That is just for the person to take their own life. That is just not at all something that was in his plan. And how likely is he to do it again? I would say, therefore, not likely at all. Now, is Futa a good person? I think is a third question we can ask about these people. I don't think Futa is a very naive person. He is definitely someone who means well. When you look at everything about him, there's nothing that really ever points to whether or not... there's nothing that really points to Futa being someone who is, like, faking his indignation or faking anything. And he definitely gets very into his witch hunts, right? He definitely, like, gets into it, but I don't think that, at the end of the day, that is really deviating too hard into sort of sadism, so to speak. And when you look at these things, when you consider this, I think that Futa is a very naive person who tried to do well by his own terms and got way too far into over his head. I think that, rather importantly, he has not done anything directly, and he has not directly resulted in anyone's death. He definitely is not happy about the fact that someone did die, and I feel like he is very unlikely to do anything ever again. So, as I'm sure should be rather obvious by the way I've been talking, I think the Futa is both innocent and I do forgive him. I don't think that he has done anything enough, that his actions have been intense enough that you could really levy a case that he and his harassment is enough of a cause of that it's murder. He's definitely kind of a jerk, but that is all that's all secondary. You know, I think at a raw level he has not crossed the threshold into being a murderer, and I think he's just a kid. I think he's just a stupid kid, which is also why I think at the end of the day I do forgive him. Futa's intrigue comes much more in the form of how he is as a person, getting into the psychology of how he thinks. Now, when you compare him to Yuno and Haruka, and this is a little bit more interesting, I don't think Futa is nearly as screwed up in the head, right? So to speak. I don't think he is a broken, damaged human being the way that Haruka is, nor do I think he is a hollow person like Yuno is. I think he's just kind of stupid. And stupidity is not good, but he's naive. He's naive and he's foolish, but I definitely think he has the capacity to change. I definitely think that he could be reasoned with, that he could be talked to, that he could be treated like a normal person, and he could be walked away from acting so destructively. And that's the most important thing, right? I think that at the end of the day, that he still has that enough simple, raw humanity, untainted humanity in him that he can be pushed back from the edge. Futa is an interesting case, right? Bring It On as a song, I think is pretty good. It definitely has this. I definitely think the song, almost more than the video, does a good job at getting you in the mindset of this really gung-ho, let's go get him kind of attitude that Futa definitely has. Bring It On is a very aggressive and powerful song, and I like it a lot. Now, I definitely think that with Futa, he could be better, that he could have done better actions, but I don't think he's done egregiously bad actions, right? Nothing he's done he's not committed heinous sins, he has simply done the sin of being a dummy. And that being a dummy is not worthy of execution. It is not something that I condemn him for. So Futa, leave the stand and go be more empathetic. Now, after Futa, this is a divisive one. This is one that I think more so than Haruka and Futa, not quite as much as Yuno, but I definitely think this person's a little more divisive, and that person is, it's also getting dark. Can't really do anything about that, but it's getting dark. Another person for whom there's more of a divided opinion is Miss Moo. Very interesting name. So Moo has the song Afterpain, and Moo's story is pretty straightforward. It's definitely a lot more straightforward than a lot of other people too. When you get to Moo, what has Moo done? What is Moo's murder? Moo's murder is that she stabs one of her friends to death. She is a high schooler who stabs a girl to death. How do we arrive at this? Well, Moo is a wealthy young lady. She is definitely a fortuitous girl who has who does not want for many things, but it is definitely implied anyway that Moo's social skills are not crippling. I wouldn't say she's near at the level of Haruka, but she definitely has trouble connecting to people and relating to people. And Moo had formed at some point this group of friends, but they weren't really her friends. They were a great group of people who leached off her wealth and her status and were very much using Moo. And this eventually wrapped around to this point in which Moo was this sort of abuse and this sort of veil of friendship looped around into Moo getting actually bullied. And as the bullying gets more and more intense, she realizes that the people that she thought were her friends were never her friends, including, and this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak, up to and including a girl that she herself was in love with. Moo's definitely, and there's a whole pile of rooms you could dig into about how open was. It's definitely Mu was definitely not actually in a relationship with this person that she was in love with. Whether or not she was repressing her sexuality or something like that is not obvious. But Mu was in love with this girl who was one of her bullies, and upon realizing that she was never loved, that she was never friends, that there was never anything between any of them, in a horrible moment of anger, she snaps and stabs her former friend in the back. Mu's song is called After Pain, and it's pretty good too. It was prior to Mimi coming out, it was definitely it was the most popular song besides maybe Undercover. I don't remember if Undercover was outperforming Mimi After Pain at the time, but it was one of the most popular songs for sure. Now they've sort of more evened out, but After Pain was definitely quite the big one, so to speak. So, let's dig into Mu's crime here. Mu stabbed someone to death. It's very, very obvious. There is no room for interpretation. She took, I can't remember if it was scissors, a knife, or box cutters. I think it was scissors. But, yeah, she stabbed someone to death. And this person was... Now, to sort of dive into the nuance of what... of the summary here, it's implied from the imagery that this person was not necessarily exploiting Mu, right? That it's implied that at the end of the day, the person who she ended up killing was not actively bullying Mu the way that the other people are shown to do. And it's implied that in addition to not actively bullying her, that she really might not, she wasn't really exploiting Mu either. It's that she didn't help her. It's this idea that even though she was not, that the girl that she likes was not doing anything to damn her, that it was this idea that Mu's parasocial relationship that she had with her, where in her head, Mu was a lot closer to this person than she thought she was. When this girl did not come to her defense, when this girl revealed that when Mu was pushed to the edge, that everything that she believed in was not true, and especially this person that she cared so much for, that she was in love with, did not help her, did not come to her defense, did not show that she too cared. That is what breaks her. That's what pushes Mu to another level. This is the part of the PV in which Mu is going to commit murder, and that's nuanced, right? There's Mu's biggest the point in which everything goes wrong for Mu is the point in which she failed to understand other people. And that failure to be able to connect and to be able to empathize resulted in her forming these bonds that she thought were way stronger than they were. And that's another theme that will come back. And it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and it bottles up until Mu just kills her. So, did Mu commit murder? Much like Haruka, there's no debate here. She runs a box cutter through the chest of a high schooler. She killed someone. She killed someone out of, motivation, emotional baggage, and that's undeniable. Now, should Mu be forgiven? This is the much more interesting question. As is usually the more interesting question, it's not typically the innocent or guilty, it is the question of forgiveness or condemnation. And with Mu, it's hard. Let's talk about the guiding questions again, right? Does Mu feel bad about what she did? Definitely not. And this is the first person where, well, besides Yuno, but of course Yuno was a weird case. This is the first person where this is really the case. Mu almost certainly does not feel bad about what she did. Maybe in a certain level of shock, but when you look into her questions, when you look into the things we know about Mu has stated that when asked if Mu could forgive people, Mu responds that the people who did the bad thing should forgive first, which definitely implies that she does not think that she does not feel bad about what she did, because after all, they did it first. Why should Mu feel bad about what she's done when it was other people that ruined her life, right? And that spite is is powerful, and it's really telling that from everything that I can gather, it really does not seem like Mu feels bad. That at the end of the day, she thinks back on everything that happened and went, well, they had it coming. Why should I feel bad about having stabbed this girl to death when all she did was make my life worse? And that's fascinating because no one's been like that yet. So Mu doesn't really feel bad about about her crime per se. And would she do it again? This is also well, she really might. Mu definitely has things wrong with her, right? And much like Haruka, I think that what we see about her and her mental state implies as such that, wow, it really got dark. But her mental state seems to imply that, try as she may to be normal, that she is not in control of her own actions, right? Her murder, when she stabs this girl, was not a premeditated, carefully thought out thing. It wasn't a organized thing like Futa's canceling. It was a snap judgment of please help me. Please tell me what's wrong. Oh, you don't care about me. Stab. And that goes to show that she's not in control of her emotions at all. So you also have the thing of that the same thing as Haruka, where I don't think Mu can be trusted with Mu. I don't think that she gets it. I don't think that she's cogent enough and comfortable enough in her own skin that she's able to look at herself and go, well, I can be responsible for my own actions. She's got this horrible disconnect with herself, reality, and her feelings that I think we can't safely say that Mu would never do this again. Do I think Mu's a bad person? I don't think that Mu is a bad person, right? She's definitely a victim. More so than anyone else thus far, Mu is a victim. Like, Haruka has a lot of bad things happen to him, but it's not like the world is out to get him. He's just kind of stuck. Yuno is kind of doing it to herself. Yuno is caught in a cycle of this compensated dating and abortion thing, but she keeps going back into it because she does not know how to get like help. She does not know how to help herself in any other way. Futa is definitely doing his own things, and misfortune is only the result of his own actions. But with Mu, more so than anyone, God, this girl, it's the outside. It's the outside putting pressure on this person who can't help themselves, right? And that's interesting. But that brings us to the harder to answer question of, okay, so Mu is guilty of murder. That I think everyone can agree because, come on now. But Mu needs a lot of help. I think at the end of the day, just because I am a forgiving soul, I do forgive her. I do forgive her because in an ideal world, if not for outside forces, right, Mu would never have done the things that she did. It's not like Futa, who is going out and going, I, Futa, am going to go and find trouble. I'm going to find trouble because it is my impetus as a person to go do that. Mu is definitely a normal person normal. She's a person who has lots of mental baggage, who is crushed by the world around her, right? She is in a horribly gridlocked situation. However, and this is a big however, much like Haruka, she requires a lot of help if she's ever going to be normal again. She is super guilty of murder, and she's super guilty of murder, and she almost owns up to it, right? She almost talks in a way of yeah, of course I did it. Of course I killed them. Why wouldn't I have killed them? Do you feel bad that I killed them? I don't feel bad that I killed them. And you look at that and you go, okay. Mu needs 10 steps of therapy before she can do anything here, right? But she's the hardest one. She's really hard for me to say whether or not I forgive her, and I definitely could say, I definitely do live in a world where I could see her being condemned. I could see that if I thought about it in a different way, that Yeah, it's not her fault. It's not her fault that she was bullied, but it was her fault that she took her actions. And most importantly, it is her fault that she doesn't feel bad about it. That's the craziest thing. That's the real linchpin that her whole case rides on, right? It's that there's a whole level beyond the are you forgiven? How do you think about this? Where it's hard. I think this is the hardest one so far to call. Where I want to forgive her because she's a victim. She's a victim, and there's no debate. I wouldn't say like Futa's a victim. Futa didn't do anything. Futa did everything to himself. I still forgive Futa because of the other circumstances, but Mu is definitely a victim. But being a victim doesn't mean that doesn't give you a license to do whatever you want. And in fact, the more I talk about it, the more I think I am not forgiving Mu. I feel very bad for her. I very much do. And I think that that it's very much possible that if she got help, and that if she was people were able to speak to her, that she would be able to reintegrate into society. But she's done horrible things and yet has not snapped back to reality. She's still in sort of an afterglow, even much amount of time. I don't know how much time because I can't quantify it because we don't really know. But even, notably after her crime, she's still in this cage where she's convinced herself that she isn't wrong. And that's a hard cage to break out of, right? It's one thing to talk about motives and to talk about possible would you not scenarios, but she's done the crime. She has killed someone, and she still doesn't feel bad about it. And I guess we could add another question too. Do I empathize with Mu? Absolutely, right? I think that if you can't empathize with Mu, then you're crazy. It's very obvious. It's very easy for someone to look at Mu and go, I get it. I understand fully everything that she did. But she went too far. She went too far, and she doesn't feel bad about it. She's not Haruka, who is ending his video in tears, going, it's my fault, put me down, I don't deserve it. She's ending her video going, yep. And comparatively, it's just not the same thing. It's just not the same thing. It's really crazy how quickly it got dark, isn't it? But yeah, Mu's an extremely interesting case, and the hardest one to call thus far. I do think ultimately, though, I am condemning her for the reasons that I've said so far. Mu, you may leave the stand. Now, the next one, I will preface, is my favorite. In terms of the project, in terms of the songwriting, in terms of the character, in terms of the story, in terms of the everything, let me tell you about a guy named Shido. Now, Shido has a song called Throw Down, and let me tell you a little bit about Shido. Shido is a doctor. He is a doctor, he is a man of medicine, and his story is very simple. It is arguably the simplest one thus far. Shido has a loved one, and the nature of which is not known. It's not really known if it was his wife. It may be, let me check something here. Okay. Yes, it's so it's implied. It's not explicitly stated, but it's implied that he had a wife or a lover of some sort who was ill with something terminal and something serious, the nature of which we don't really know. I really don't have any lights, do I? I might just turn off the cam just because I'm in the dark now. But it could be his wife, it could be a sister. It's definitely someone who he considers family. The nature of which doesn't really matter. It does not really matter the nature of this relation to him. But he had someone he knew who was terminally ill and in need, and this is the important part, in need of organ transfusion. Organ transfusion, of course, being the process by which, if someone is a failing organ, it is possible in certain cases that they can have another's organ who matches with them in various reasons, put into them, and this will fix their failing body. This will allow them to fix themselves, so to speak. Now, Shido knew this. He knew that he had, that this person who he loved was in a dire situation, and they could probably be saved with an organ transplant. So, what is his crime? It is that he intentionally fails surgeries on people who might be good organ donors. He intentionally, as a doctor, as a surgeon, lets people die when he probably could have saved them, so that their organs might go to the person that he loves and he could save the person he holds dear. This is, I think, like the classic moral question, right? Because you have to look into the details therein, right? So this is what we know about Shido, but his story in a literal sense. But let's get a little more personal. Let's look into his head. Shido is perfectly aware of everything that is going on in his head, right? He is under no illusion that he is doing anything, that he is right. More than any of the other prisoners, Shido enters the story and goes, "Put me down." He goes, "Yeah, kill me." Shido knows what he did. He knows that what he did, he knows what he did wasn't good, but he said, "I don't care." He said, I am perfectly aware that I am going to do something bad. If I succeed, great. Nothing's more important than the people I love most. And if I fail, I'm not going to try and tell you I did the right thing. And he does fail. That's the other thing, is that he is able to get organs for the person that he loves, but their body rejects the organs and they end up dying anyway, which is, of course, the big tragedy for Shido. So when you cut back to him in present time, Shido says, whenever you ask him, "I don't care if I die. In fact, not only do I not care, you should kill me." He is completely cogent to the fact that he did wrong. But he's like, "Yeah, I mean, I shot my shot. I did what I had to do. I tried to save someone. They were worth the world to me. It didn't work out. Kill me. Do it. It's fine if I die," because he's not trying to say that he did well, that he did something good. And that's the interesting thing, right? Now we have a scenario where, is Shido guilty of murder? Absolutely. There's no, he broke the Hippocratic Oath many times over. There's no nothing that Shido is anything but guilty. Let's try and badly light the scene. Can I yeah. Don't mind me, just, there we go. I turned on a light. But yes, Shido is undoubtedly guilty. He took the lives of many people, sort of passively, so to speak. But the interesting thing that complicates the morality of Shido's story is that he, more than anyone, is stark, stone cold aware of what he's doing. He is not trying to play the victim in any way. He is not trying to make excuses. He goes, "Yeah, I did it. Here's what I did. Here's why I did it. And kill me." So let's sort of take a step back, right? Not me. Let's take a step back. He's guilty of murder. Come on now. He's guilty of murder. But let's go back to our guiding questions. Does he feel bad about what he did? Not really. Shido definitely says, like, "I knew what I did. I knew what I did. I did it. I thought that, trying to save the life of the person I loved is more important than these other people." He'll tell you that straight to his face. Would he do it again? Honestly, probably. There's such a lack. The clarity on Shido is what's fascinating. He's so aware of what he's doing. He's so crystal clear. Yeah, I mean, if he had the opportunity, if this succeeded and he was put in the same scenario, would he do it again? Yeah, honestly, he probably would. But, and here's the big but, that's the crazy thing, I forgive Shido. I forgive Shido, and turns out most people do too. Shido was voted innocent. He was forgiven. And let's try and break down why that is. And it's interesting because it's almost a little hard for me to break down why that is, personally. Why do I think that Shido should be forgiven? And it's because I don't think that he's... Not that he's a bad person. It's that I think there's two things. It's the honesty, the crazy level of honesty that he has is admirable, and that what he's doing for a very empathetically good reason, right? There is no moral impetus to decide whether or not, like, good is, like, what is more good or anything, right? There's no, like, a utilitarian would say that he did bad. But he's doing everything he's doing for the motive of trying to save someone. You could compare this, to use a Vocaloid comparison, think about Servant of Evil, right? Alan Avadonia is a bad man. He is a bad man who killed his dad and was, like, an accessory to genocide. He's not a good guy. But everyone loves Alan, everyone forgives Alan, everyone feels bad when he dies at the end of Servant of Evil, because you understand Alan. Because for everything that Alan does, he only does it because he loves his sister. And a similar thing, I think, comes down with Shido, right? Shido is a bad guy. He broke the Hippocratic Oath and killed people on the surgery table. But it's because he very much loved someone. I think his motive is understandable more than many of the prisoners thus far, where you go, yeah, he was just, who is Shido? He is a guy who went, I love this person. Imagine for a moment someone that you love, be that a mother or a sister or something, a family member, a friend. Shido went, yeah, I love this person. This person is incredibly important to me. In his questions, one of the questions that Shido was asked was, is there anyone that, like, you confide in emotionally? And his response is, not anymore. So there's this person that he trusts dearly, that he trusts on, like, this deep emotional level, and they're dying. They're dying, and you realize that if you don't do anything, he's a doctor, he's on the inside. If you do nothing, there is no organ donor. There's other people in line for the organs before them. They're not going to live. They're not going to make it out of this if you don't do anything. So he makes a choice. He makes a choice and goes, well, let's find some people who don't have a lot of life to live for. Of course, that's not really his call to make, but let's do this, and I'm going to keep them alive. So you have that motive, right? And you have this incredible level of honesty where he's coaching on what he's doing, and he goes, I'm not doing the right thing. This isn't the right thing. Surely no one would ever say, I would never say, that I'm doing the right thing here in taking these people's lives. And you know what? If you want to kill me, kill me. I'm not going to defend myself because there's nothing to defend. You look at that crazy level of earth-shaking honesty combined with his motivation, and there's such a strong empathy for Shido. I think that it is so easy to feel bad for him. It is so easy to understand him and to go, yeah, I get it. I get why someone who's presented with the love of your life is not going to make it. And you could do something about it if you want to. And if you don't, not only there is no question of maybe they'll get a donor. You know they won't. It's crazy, because you go, at least I go, yeah, I get it. I don't think Shido's a bad person. That's really what it comes down to. I think that in spite of everything that he did, he's not a bad guy. He's only doing and acting according to a very understandable set of guidelines. And his morality is crystal clear. His morality is untainted by by everything that he does. And that's fascinating. I think that goes a long way to earning Shido his forgiveness. And it has for a lot of other people too. This is a very common sentiment. Shido was voted innocent, and he himself would never vote himself innocent. And that's perhaps the most interesting thing, right? Shido absolutely believes he has no faith in himself. But it's because he has no faith in himself that I think everyone has an affection for him. It's something special. So Shido, you may leave the stand. You did very well. I forgive you. I forgive you, even if you never can't forgive yourself. Now we're going to the opposite team. I'm going to try and be fair. I'm going to try and be as fair as possible when I present this story. I hate Mahiru. 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 Let's get into why. This next girl is named Mahiru. Her song is This Is How to Be in Love with You. And Mahiru's crime is induced suicide, much like Futa. She's another case of induced suicide. Now, how did this come to be? Well, it's interesting because now Mahiru, for the songs that have happened, the what has happened has been pretty clean cut. It hasn't been like Haruka where there was a bit of debate. Now, however, while that is the case, with Mahiru, we get a little bit more dicey on the details of what actually happened to Mahiru. What appears to have happened is that Mahiru was in a relationship with a boy. She is a college student who met someone when she went off to college and fell in love with them. And they were in a relationship, but their relationship ended up not really working out, and Mahiru was overbearing. She was overbearing, and she wouldn't let it go. And her constant levels of crazy resulted in her ex-boyfriend killing himself. Now, there's another kernel of interpretation here that makes Mahiru's process a little bit more confusing, and that's that Mahiru has a very hard time understanding morality. Understanding the world. More than anyone else, Mahiru really doesn't get how to be a person. She doesn't understand people's emotions. And this leads up to something that I kind of believe myself, and that a lot of people believe, is that she might not have been in a relationship at all. Mahiru, to the end, never understands that anything she's doing is bad. She doesn't understand that as her actions get more and more crazy, to the point of her being like this obsessed, almost stalker-ish kind of person, that she doesn't understand that this person doesn't want anything to do with her. She doesn't understand that she's doing bad. And she doesn't understand that she's cornering someone. So this brings you to wonder, were they even in a relationship? Or was this just what Mahiru thought they were in? And there is no easy answer to that, and that's not like explicitly stated, but it's very possible that, if nothing else, the degree to which these two were close is not represented by Mahiru. Mahiru is a very unreliable narrator, where what she thinks is the case, and what is the case, more than anyone else, right? More than any other character we've seen thus far, Mahiru is she is contra reality in her obsession and in her ability to understand people. It's insane. Mahiru is terrifying because she is in a different world. So we have to talk about induced suicide again, right? I also just want to point out to the moment where it seems like something that may or may not be the case, because again, it's the exact timeline of Mahiru's events is hard to follow. But it seems that the last thing, the straw that breaks the camel's back, might be that her ex-boyfriend, or this guy, comes home one day and Mahiru is in his house having made him a meal, set up, being like, "I made you dinner, boyfriend," and he's like, "Whoa, wait a minute, that's not, why are you in my house? What are you doing?" Like, this is the level of psychopath we're dealing with. This is the level of absolute, your world is not the world. It's crazy. How in a different place, a different time, a different zone, a different universe Mahiru is in. Now, induced suicide, right? Is this person, could you say that this person, that this level of overbearing caused someone to kill themselves? That is debatable, only in the sense that we don't really know the details, right? There's a lot we don't know about Mahiru. We don't really know to what extent she is responsible for her crimes. We don't really know what she did. We don't really know how aggressive it is, how disconnected she was, only that there is a disconnect, right? But is she guilty? I'm saying that she is. I'm saying that there's something profoundly wrong with Mahiru, and that while there is, well, it's hard to say exactly what happened, and that's the problem, is that it's really hard to say. I think that enough seems to be in place for me to say that Mahiru is probably guilty of murder. I definitely think that in a court of law, you could find this girl guilty of homicide. It wouldn't be murder. It'd be like third-degree murder, but guilty in the sense of her actions played into everything that occurred. And then you look at her, our guiding questions, right? Does she feel bad about it? I don't think she understands. I think to this day, Mahiru doesn't get it. She doesn't get that she was responsible for her things. And when you look at her questions, when you look at the questions that she answers in present time, there's questions like, what do you think about being in love? What do you about this and that? And she's in a daze. She doesn't get it. She has no idea that, to this day, that she's responsible. Would she do it again? Yeah, because she's in a different planet. This is the first time that I unfortunately have to say guilty condemn. Mahiru she's unwell. This girl is unwell. Her problems are very deep rooted. She is potentially, from what we do know, no matter what, she is extremely disconnected from the world, extremely disconnected about herself. And you could scale that up to her being guilty of way, way, way more crazy things. If the way that, the thing that I said about her breaking into a guy's house and cooking dinner, thinking that she's his girlfriend, if that's actually the case, and the reasoning for this is that in the second course, she says something like, even the times that we play break up, like, I know it's just a game and we all make up in the end. No. You didn't play break up. You guys are not together. And yet she still keeps doing these things. Mahiru is in a different planet than everyone else. And her actions are awful in a way that you gotta look at the characters, right? She's like the anti-Shido. Shido. Because Shido, felt he did everything cogently. He was squarely in the realm of reality. And then he goes, yeah, kill me if you want. I get it. Yeah. He goes, please kill me, actually. He's completely cogent about everything that he did. Everything is very clear cut in stone. And then at the end of the day, he goes, well, I tried, I failed, kill me. I don't deserve to be alive. Mahiru is on Mars going, I'm in love with my boyfriend. I don't know what happened. He just died. Beats me. I don't know. I don't know how he died. I don't know. I was just hanging out with my boyfriend and then he was dead. And that's terrifying. That absolute disconnect between you and the world and everything about it is horrifying. Mahiru is horrifying. And that is what's so scary about her. That is why I think that is why she is the first person that I'm saying is guilty, and I'm condemning her, because she can't function. She is not a person that can be a normal person, a normal trusted person. Mahiru, please leave and don't come back. I don't trust you. Taking the stand next is Kazui. I love this man. I will preface also before Mahiru. Now, Kazui is fascinating. I think Kazui is a very interesting case. Also, a lot of ambiguity in terms of the Kazui case, right? I would say just as much ambiguity as Mahiru. So, Kazui, what is his murder? His murder is his wife. But much like Mahiru, it is implied that it's induced suicide is his crime, right? Now, what's Kazui's story? Kazui is a man who works at a host club. A host club, for those you don't know, it's a sort of a high-class bar where, like, where the attractive, dashing men sort of wait on you. It's not like there's nothing romantic per se, but there's nothing romantic about it. But it's definitely sold on the fact that you can go and have these pretty boys serve you. That's his job. He works there. It's fine. An important thing to note is that there will be a question of Kazui's faithfulness. I think that he is faithful. I do not think that Kazui is cheating on his wife. However, he does work in this job where there's definitely a degree of he's a little, his job is definitely has girls fawning over him. And even if he is not being unfaithful, it's definitely a little weird what he does. So he works at a host bar, and then he comes home and he's with his wife. But there's this duality in his job is straining his relationship with his wife. It's that him and his wife does not really like that he's a host, and this culminates in their marriage getting more and more strained. Kazui failing to realize how bad it is, how much his wife is sort of put off by this lack of connection between them. Whether he doesn't realize it, or he chooses not to realize it, or she herself is not communicating how much she's hurting on the inside, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until his wife kills herself. Now, I'm going to open this by saying that I think Kazui is innocent. When we talk about, what we have to compare Kazui to Futa and to Mahiru, who are, of course, the other two cases of induced suicide, right? Futa harassed someone until they killed themselves. Mahiru is psycho, crazied someone until they killed themselves. Kazui did not do anything to his wife to make her kill herself. He just didn't. It was not his action, but his inaction, right? It is not that Kazui did anything actively to hurt his wife. It's very clear that Kazui loves his wife, as a matter of fact. That there's no animosity between him and her from his end. He very much loves his wife. But there's a miscommunication. Him and his wife were not on the same page. He was completely blind to the hurting that his wife was feeling, and this just escalated and escalated and escalated and escalated until it reached a breaking point. But Kazui is not actively responsible for killing his wife, and never in a court of law would he be found responsible. He would not be charged with homicide by any definition. He's not guilty of murder. And Kazui, I'd say more so than Haruka, maybe not quite the level of Shido, but Kazui hates himself. You look at how he's portrayed in his music video, you look at how he's portrayed in Undercover and the auxiliary material, and he laments everything that he did. He looks back and goes, yeah, it was my fault. I didn't talk to my wife, I didn't notice these things. And at the end of the day, it resulted in this horrible outcome. He looks at that and he knows it. He's completely aware. He does not try and make excuses. So, does he feel bad about it? Of course he feels bad about it. He didn't want his wife to die. He loved his wife. He was a good guy. Kazui was a very good person. He just didn't understand. Would he do it again? Hell no! Hell no would he ever do it again. Which is why, I don't know if this is it was the first one since but not condemn. Forgiven. Yeah, I think Kazui absolutely is innocent, and I forgive him. There's no part of him that you can blame for the scenario actively. The problem was not him, it was the scenario. It was not that Kazui was trying to hurt anyone. It was not that Kazui was trying to do bad to anyone by any means. He was just on a different world, right? he failed to realize what was going on. And to his credit as well, it's heavily implied that his wife was not telling him, like, he was not walking up to him and going like, I don't like this. His wife was likely bottling up and not outright saying her feelings, hoping that Kazui would notice her feelings, but not speaking up, which, just as much, the miscommunication was not, the difference is that between Kazumi and Mahiru, right, to take it back, is that Mahiru, it seems very likely that Mahiru's miscommunication was only her fault. It was that Mahiru thought one thing, and no matter how much the other party tried to express their sentiments, Mahiru just doesn't listen because she's Mahiru. Kazumi and his wife both didn't talk to each other. As much as Kazui, thought that what he did was bad, it's that his wife also wasn't being open and sincere, and because we never see it, and from everything we know about Kazui, it seems very much so that he would not, that if that was the case, he probably would have taken a different action. And that's the tragedy, right? Kazui he is a man seeping with pathos, a man seeping with empathy, and a good spirit. He's not doing anything horribly wrong, right? He is not trying to hurt anyone. He feels awful about what happened to him, and I don't believe this is his fault in any way. Or, I mean, in some way, of course, but it's not his fault in, a murder way, right? Yes. What people were talking about him being, non-confrontational is definitely the case, right? At the beginning of his song, Half, he talks about how he, knows that the situation he's in is not a good one, right? And he's sort of wishy-washy on, he can probably feel that his wife isn't really pleased with what he does, but, I mean, it's his job, right? What's he gonna do about it? But even with that being the base sort of starting state of being, you gotta look at things and go, well, sure, maybe that was the case, but his wife didn't, things were not escalated, right? Both him and his wife were sort of averting their eyes and not escalating things outright while things escalated on the inside. And from there, it's just a tragedy of situation and circumstance, more so than it is a crime on the behalf of any person. That's definitely how I see it anyway. So Kazumi song and Half is also a wonderful song. It's more good composition. I don't really listen to This Is How to Be in Love with You because Mahiru scares me too much. But this is a good song. I like Half. It's not one of my favorite songs. I'll rank all the songs as songs after the fact. But yes, take these down. Kazui's a fascinating scenario, and I think he's a good guy. And speaking of fascinating scenarios, next is the most cryptic, perhaps most interesting song in the entire first phase, and that is the song of Amane. Amane is so cryptic, it's hard for me to even tell you what happened. So, Amane is a girl who is indoctrinated into a cult. She is the spokesperson who's being used to market a, exploitative, money-gathering cult. And what is her crime? Good question. So we know that at the very least, Amane as a person, as a child in this cult, someone who exists on a pedestal in this cult, was at one point being sympathetic to someone who was not paying their dues, a member of the cult who was not paying forward the money that was owed to them, that they owed to the cult. And this resulted in Amane being shunned. It's heavily implied that Amane is abused within the cult, and her extending sympathy to this person who was not paying the cult enough money resulted in her being, again, neglected, abused, and this person almost certainly died. Now that could be her murder. Her murder could be something a little more explicit than that. But for simplicity's sake, just because it's not really clear what exactly the nature of her murder is, that's probably her murder, is that she didn't save this person. Now, her video is amazing. Taking a step back from the debate about morality, her video is like a masterwork of visual storytelling. It is layered and layered with symbolism and metaphor, and things mean like 5 things, and it's fantastic. It's a little maybe too abstract. I definitely wish it was a little more explicit, but and her song is also amazing, by the way. Magic is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful song. But yes, so she is the spokesperson of this cult, and the question is that how much is she responsible for everything that's happened? Now, Amane is, I started playing the video, I may as well take it down already. She is the easiest person in the project to answer for. She is innocent, and she is forgiven. I don't need to, there is no debate here. She would be found innocent in a court of law. She did not kill anyone, personally. It might be implied by some of the visual symbolism at the end that, like, you know, she may have been the one to, like, pull the trigger, so to speak, like, on killing this, the person who wasn't paying their cult dues. But it doesn't matter. If ever Amane was tried, she would be tried as she is indoctrinated. And there's also a level of, it's implied, so to speak, that it's implied, so to speak, that she may have been sold into the cult. But, like, let's take a step back here. Child soldiers are innocent. We don't vote, like, we as a country don't, like, as a court of law, like, vote, we don't blame child soldiers, because child soldiers are not in control of their actions. You are responsible as a person for the actions you take. Amane is not taking actions because she has no self. She has no, like, ability to understand. She is a child, right? If we find child soldiers in, like, Iraq and Afghanistan, we don't shoot them and gun them down because they're murderers, even if they are, because they're not responsible for their actions. If a child has been indoctrinated into believing that there is only one reality and that they have no choice but to act under a certain set of rules that have been prescribed to them, they are not responsible for those actions because they're not an adult choosing things. Like, Futa is sitting in his home, choosing to go on Twitter. He's choosing to, I don't even know him. Oh, my phone is being the light. But he is sitting in his home, pulling out his phone, going, I'm going to cancel someone. And Amane is not, there is no element of choice. When you are brainwashed, you are not, like, you are less responsible for your actions. And when you're a child especially, there's no question. Now, before we go any further, if you look at, like, the Manson trials, the people who Marilyn Manson convinced to go kill people, yes, they were guilty to some degree of their actions. Being indoctrinated takes you a step back for sure, but it does not fully absolve you of your sins. However, once you also add on to that you're a child, then yes, it doesn't matter what Amane thinks. It doesn't matter if, and she's not like this, by the way. Amane does not do what I'm about to say. But if you talk to Amane and she said, yes, I love murder, please kill them more, she would still be innocent. Because it's not her choice. It's implied that her father sold her into a cult and then left. She hasn't seen her, like, her father is missing, and she hasn't seen her father and, like, misses him. It's implied that her father sold her into a cult, and she's a kid. She has no control over the circumstances that she's in. She is in a scenario where she has to act one way because there is no other way to act. So there is no choice. You're responsible for the choices you make. If someone took my hand, right? If someone took my hand and, while I was asleep, wrapped my hand around a gun, put my finger around the trigger, and then pushed my finger like this, yes, it's my body that pulled it, and this is a bit of a straw man, but yes, it's my finger that pulled the trigger, but like, obviously I'm not to blame because that wasn't a choice I made. I did not choose to shoot that gun. That choice was made for me. You get what I'm saying? Amane did not choose to kill someone. She did not choose to condemn a life. And also the nature of her murder is very ambiguous and we don't really know how her murder happened. But she did not choose anything here. She is completely divorced from the idea of choice because she's in a freaking cult and she's a kid. I think it's a pretty closed book case in this scenario. Amane is definitely innocent and forgiven, as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing. Yeah, legally she's innocent. She would not be found guilty in a court of law because being a child. And when you're a brainwashed child, you're not responsible for your actions. You're just not. It's how the world, we've dictated that the world works, and I think that's so. You can't hold a child responsible for actions that have been like built and hammered into them, right? Now, there's a lot missing from Amane's story, right? We're missing a ton of details. We don't really know, like, is Amane's murder did she kill the guy that helped them? If so, what is killing? Did the cult give her a gun and say shoot? It seems to there seems to be like a motif of electricity. Did they pour a bucket of water on him and say take this taser to his throat? Did she do that? Or did someone else do it and she's only responsible by proxy for not doing things? Yes. And to briefly address some of the debate that's going on here, children can't choose. Children really very much can't choose. That's hyperbolic. Children can make choices, but if a child is indoctrinated, they have been divorced from choice, right? A child can choose in the same sense that, like, I can choose if I'm a kid. If I'm a kid and Jerry steals my lunchbox, I can choose if I'm going to beat him up because of it, or if I'm going to cry, or if I'm going to let him have it, or if I'm going to try and reason with him. You can choose that. Of course you can. But if children's brains are putty, right? They're not like an adult. An adult has seen the world. The way that we all learn to take action, right, is that we see the world. We see things, we see different experiences, and we grow and gain a global consensus about what is and isn't wrong or right to do. When you're a kid, you don't have that yet. You have not lived long enough to decide and learn about what is and isn't right or wrong, because you're a kid. You're just a kid. And if someone comes in and swoops in and tells you, don't worry, don't think, I will tell you what's right or wrong, then you are no longer even a person, you're a puppet. And that's kind of what Amane is. Because even when you look at her questions and her interviews, Amane does not really express guilt over what she's done, but it's because she doesn't understand. She has no idea how the world works. So why would she feel bad when she was taught to feel good? When it was beaten into her that this is the way the world works. She doesn't have the ability to make those calls, to make those choices. Which is why I think she's definitely innocent and forgiven. She definitely needs, like, hard therapy, social conditioning, if she would ever hope to be normal. That's the sad truth about people who have been truly indoctrinated. But, I mean, come on now. I still think we should try. Amane, you may leave the stand. Now, Amane has a great video, a good song that's hard to understand. The next person, also, there's a lot of debate in terms of, like, what happened. The next person, I was looking at the Amane discourse. The next person is very hard to pin down. And this person is Mikoto. Mikoto is fascinating. The nature of Mikoto's crimes are kind of vague. Mikoto's crime is that he just kills people. It's not really said in like what way. He just kind of like we just see that he just bludgeons people to death with a bat because I don't know. We don't really know his reasons. He just does it. That's not the interesting thing about Mikoto. The interesting thing about Mikoto is how he acts in response to this. Oh, also briefly to address, one last point about Amane. She was voted guilty, and the reason for that is pretty much only explicitly because people want to see her in the next round. Like when voting started, she was very, very overwhelmingly innocent, but then she was voted guilty because people just want to see more of Amane. So that's just briefly to explain the statistics of what happened with Amane's voting. Mikoto, he beats people to death with a baseball bat, and he does it because we don't really know why. Now, that's not the interesting thing about Mikoto, right? The interesting thing is how Mikoto acts. It's not clear. So Mikoto is presented as sort of having a bit of a dual personality, so to say. He acts very differently in two different states. And if you talk to him, he denies ever having committed a crime. He acts very innocently, but we also see in his video that he bludgeons people to death with a baseball bat and doesn't really care. Now, there's two schools of thought here, right? Two different branching ideas about what is actually going on with Mikoto. The first idea states that he has DID, that he has dissociative identity disorder, in which he quite literally is unaware of what he's doing. That he is so mentally bad, that he is so mentally kind of screwed up, that as a coping mechanism, he created another personality that was innocent and had nothing wrong with him, and that's why and that person could live innocent while the murderer could be a murderer. That is, I think, probably the more common consensus as to what happened with Mikoto. I don't know why my captain's got turned on. That's probably the more common consensus of what happened to Mikoto. I don't personally think that's the case. The other school of thought is that Mikoto is just a filthy liar, which is kind of what I believe more. So it's not clear, by the way, it really could be either way. But I don't think Mikoto is DID. I think that Mikoto is lying. There's enough reason to believe that while it could be that he is DID, I think he's just full of it. It seems to be that Mikoto has a complex about where on some level he probably knows what he's doing is wrong, or that he's not a good guy, but he still presents himself being normal. And I think the most telling reason to believe that he might not be telling the truth is the very ending of the song, where at the very end he says the last lines he speaks in the song are something like, "If you forgive me, I'll leave you alone and look the other way," before he literally smashes the camera by punching it. And this is not presented as being like other Mikoto. This is as being like the crazy killer Mikoto. It's presented as if he's just a guy, or rather the innocent one. So all this leads me to believe that I don't think he is DID. I think that he's just a liar, that he's still is a coping mechanism, that he is a strong compulsive liar. And yeah, I think that he is coping by creating these lies that encase him, right? Now, also Mikoto, I don't think you can trust a single thing he's saying, by the way, is also a problem with when you look at his song. So Mikoto kills people. Mikoto's song is interesting because it's almost not debating his the nature of his action, because you don't know almost anything about him, right? You don't know why he kills someone. The person that he kills looks like it's a hoodlum, so to speak. That they're like a street kid. So it could be that Mikoto's kind of maybe Yakuza adjacent, that he's in some sort of organized crime. It could be any number of things. You just don't know. Also, excuse me, YouTube. Yeah, you don't really know with Mikoto. You don't know what his thing is. But that's not the question. The question is deciphering what he's doing, and therefore deciding based off of whether or not you think he's lying or not, what actions he takes therefore are. So, is he guilty of murder? Yes, he's guilty of murder. There's nothing to say here. Now, this is interesting. So, if he has dissociative identity disorder, I mean, he's still guilty in a court of law. That's not a defensible thing. I don't believe. I'm pretty sure he would still be voted guilty. He would be guilty in the sense that he did commit the murder, but he would actually probably be let go on for mental illness if he really did have DID. And if he really did have DID, I would forgive him because that's not his fault. See, dissociative identity disorder is hard. It's hard because if that's the case, then the innocent personality is innocent. But even if that's the case, the non-innocent state of being would be the one that probably existed first. But let's take that and put that over here. I don't think he has dissociative identity disorder, and I think he's full of it, which is why I say Mikoto needs to get out of here. I think that there's enough evidence presented to believe that he is cogent and is just lying. And if that's the case, I don't think there's any debate. I don't think there's any room for debate. He is definitely just full of it. But Mikoto's hard. Mikoto's hard because his song leaves a lot to be explained. There's a lot of things that are not said to you outright that leave it that make you wonder. I think the more interesting, question for the audience is, if he did have dissociative identity disorder, do you blame him for what his other personality does? But I think that is all missing the forest for the trees, and that he's kind of just a compulsive liar. And in a sense, he's probably lying to himself too. It's not just that he's lying to the audience, he's also a crazy guy who's earnestly trying to convince himself of things that aren't true. And that's all fascinating. Mikoto's an interesting case. I think we're missing a lot of pieces here. But from the pieces that we do have, I definitely think that this guy needs to get out of here. He has done horrible, horrible things, and that's not okay. The song is also extremely popular. I think it was above and beyond the most popular song in MILGRAM, with After Pain being number 2. I'm pretty sure that's how the statistics work out. Yeah, very popular song, but Mikoto he's not it, buddy. There's many things wrong with him. So, guilty, condemned. Mikoto, you may leave the stand. But I think we ultimately need to see more. I'm very interested in seeing more from Mikoto because I think we just don't have enough information. Which brings us to the last prisoner. The last defendant, and that is Kotoko. Kotoko's song came out yesterday? 2 days ago? Some 24 to 48 hours ago. And she is a rather straightforward story, but with some nuance in what's being told. So, Kotoko's murder is that she is a vigilante. She is working outside of the law to catch bad people in general, but kind of more specifically this one specific person who is abusing, murdering, trafficking, probably not trafficking, more simply in the murdering children. There is a person who is going around who is serially murdering and abusing children. And that is her main focus. She also kind of just goes after bad people because she's a girl boss. But she goes after these bad people, beats them up. She does not work with the law. And ultimately she goes after this. She's trying to hunt down and eventually does find this person who is abusing and murdering children. And she kills him. She catches him in the act, as a matter of fact. It's pretty bad. But there's some nuance to this case here. So, first off, Kotoko, it is kind of implied that Kotoko may have been a victim, and by kind of implied, I mean it's pretty strongly implied, that Kotoko was at some point or another a victim of child abuse herself. Whether it be at the hands of literally the same person or not, it's kind of unclear, but that Kotoko presumably has experienced some sort of child abuse, which is why she feels so strongly for trying to hunt down this abuser, this murderer. And the thing complicating her morality in this case is that Kotoko is very clearly enjoying what she's doing. That is, I think, the big thing with Kotoko, is that she's trying to hunt down people who have committed crimes, but she loves it. She's in for murdering this guy at the end, and that's the exact nature of that can be debated. It can be debated if she's into it per se, or if it's more that she's like embracing being a hunter, so to speak. But there's definitely a level of there's what I'm doing because I think it's right, and what I'm getting out of it. That is a problem. Nicholas, the people have translated the text in Hado. Most of the text in Hado is just showing like articles dictating the various like crimes that people have committed, up to and including the recurrent examples of child murder, child abuse and murder that Kotoko is pursuing. Now, let's talk about Kotoko. Kotoko is guilty of murder. She would be found guilty in a court of law no matter what. Who she killed was a serial child murderer. So, like, I mean, kudos, but come on, but it was not Kotoko's right to kill someone. She is guilty in the strict sense of like murder. Now, whether or not she should be forgiven, this is interesting. And for this, I think we have to go back to our guiding questions. Does Kotoko feel bad about what she did? Probably not. Almost certainly not. When you look at her lyrics in Undercover, she speaks about how, like, you know, she has a lot of like, I am justice. I will defeat the bad people. She probably doesn't feel bad about what she did. She would probably do it again. And this is all stemming from the sense that I definitely think Kotoko's right. Or that Kotoko thinks that she's right. She thinks that she's doing something good. Like, sure, she's killing someone, but this dude's like a serial murderer. A serial murderer of children. Like, it stacks the deck about as like much as the deck could be stacked, right? Where bad man, bad man, bad man. Can we kill the bad man? Is the question posed by Kotoko's song. It goes, is it okay to murder baby Hitler? If we have a person who is serially murdering children for no reason other than he thinks that it's okay, is it okay for the very, very, very attractive girl boss to kill him? And I think that it comes down to one thing. And I think the thing that sways Kotoko is that she likes it. I think that's the single feature that I think really hurts Kotoko, is that it really, really is implied that she gets a kick out of it. That the idea that she's like hurting these people who have done wrong, she loves it. She loves it. She really gets off on, I am the hero. Yeah, these people are bad. I'm gonna beat them up. This dude hurt children. I'm gonna kill him. And that's where Kotoko gets dangerous, right? That's where Kotoko is put at a different level from everyone else, where she feels justified. Kotoko feels that everything that she's doing is justified. Where, again, to go back to like Shido, right? Shido knows that he's doing something wrong. Shido knows that he's doing something bad, and if you ask him about it, he's like, yeah, I did something bad. Kotoko, if you ask Kotoko, she'll go, no, they had it coming. She'll admit to it just like Shido would. But then she'll go, no, it's what's going on. And so with Kotoko, I kind of take the stance that Kotoko is very on the edge, right? I think at the end of the day, I do mostly forgive her. But she needs, like, serious conditioning. Like, it's okay, and I think everyone thinks it's okay, because she's killing bad people, right? But that is not her. She has no license to do that. She has no right to go kill people. All of her detective work, that's fine. If she wanted to, she could do everything that she did, and then just, and when she finds the man, when she corners the man, like hunting down the children, she could just call the cops, tell them to go there, and they would have found him and arrested him. But no, she takes it upon herself to go, I'm gonna kill this guy. And that's dangerous. Kotoko is a dangerous person, because what if she's wrong, right? Like, Kotoko makes all these choices, but what if she finds the wrong guy? What if she's not right? What if she thinks that she found the guy who's killing the kids, but it wasn't that guy? And sure, she was right this time, but she can't make that bet. It is not her job to make that bet. It is not her duty to make that bet. And it doesn't matter, like, who you are, what actions you're going to take. She can't do it. It doesn't matter how right she was at the time. She can't do it. She is very guilty, and she's very dangerous. I think that she's on the same level as... she's probably most comparable to Mu, actually, where there's something very not well. And actually, I'm condemning Kotoko. I love Kotoko. I think that she's cool. I think that she's a baddie, but she's unwell. It doesn't... The only difference between Kotoko and Mu is severity, right? Kotoko is take Mu's situation and ramp up the scale. What if they weren't just bullies? And in Mu's case, she didn't really even kill a bully. She killed her friend, but what if it wasn't bullies? What if it was child murder? And if it was child murder, is that okay? Does that make it okay to kill them? Does that make it okay to feel that you're okay killing them? Does that make that okay to feel that it's okay to feel that it's okay to kill them? No. You can't say that. You can't draw the line of saying that it's okay. And like, I think this would all change if Kotoko internally was more like Shido. If at the end of the day she's like, I don't care if you forgive me, or like I don't care if I have to go down. Like, I did what I did. You can kill me if you want. If that was her stance, it'd be different. It'd be different because that would say that she has a moral compass. She has a moral imperative of saying that, like, if saying that, like, she was real and put into context the way that Shido was. And yes, the Kagura 24 points out that, like, the person that she murders, as is described by the news articles, was like caught multiple times, more than likely, and just kind of let go. So at that point, that also complicates things. Where yeah, Kotoko goes, well, do I trust the law? Do I trust the law when the law hasn't acted before? And you can, and again, I think this is all like, it's really easy to believe Kotoko because she's right this time, right? It's really easy to go that, yeah, everything she did was okay because at the end of the day, she did kill a child murderer. Like, and yes, Silver hopes Kotoko's MB is very Inno-coded. Very much agree. I think that she's presented as in a way that, like, to try and make you think that she's innocent. I definitely agree with that. But it's really easy for everyone to say that she's innocent this time. It's very, like, she's innocent because she killed a child murderer. But if you take all of her reasoning, all of her mindset, and that was the wrong guy, no one would think that she's okay. Even if she thought she was okay. And that's the problem, right? You can't just isolate a case like this, where Kotoko is not, it's not a grudge, it's I'm going after everyone, where Kotoko goes, I am justice. You can't do that, right? Like, Shido was not acting on the broad, he was acting on the personal. Shido was not about, I'm going to try and save people who need organs by killing other people. He goes, I'm going to save this person, this one person. Whereas Kotoko goes, I am justice. I am the law. And now another layer you can go with Kotoko is that it's implied that she has not killed anyone besides this guy, right? And you could say that this is only because of her own connection to child abuse, and that she wouldn't kill anyone else going forward. But that's still you can't. I don't think we know enough to say that that's for sure. That you know that for sure, for one, and for two, even if that is the case, it's too much. It's too much. But see, this is where morality gets interesting, right? So, like I said, we don't know a lot about Kotoko, but let's say this is the guy that abused her, then I forgive her. If this was literally the same person that resulted in Kotoko's own child abuse when she was younger, forgiven. Because then it's not justice, then it's Shido. And I think that's the big distinction. You can't apply Kotoko's ideals on the broad, right? Kotoko's ideas, if applied to the world, that's too much. Kotoko, if you do that, she's crazy. You can't believe that. You can't believe that you can do whatever you want just if you think that you're right. But if it was vengeance for something truly awful, and you knew that, and everything was isolated, go for it. Go for it. I forgive you. I forgive you because where you're acting from is a place of sheer logic in that case. But we don't know that. We don't know that for sure. And if Kotoko is supposed to be justice, then I can't do anything but condemn her. But Kotoko's a hard case. She's a lot harder than a lot of other people, to be sure. And that's the hard thing about MILGRAM, and that's what makes it so interesting. So, yeah, Kotoko's a difficult case. And I think much like with Mikoto, I could go into different ways. I could go in different directions depending on more details that we don't really necessarily have. Kotoko's the same way. Kotoko's vindictive violence, I definitely agree with more if it's personal and not generalized. That's the real point where I think Kotoko branches, and you go one way or the other. But very fascinating. Haro is an amazing song. Haro is a fantastic song. And on the topic of songs, I'm going to quick break from the morality discussion now that we've discussed our last prisoner here. And Kotoko, you can leave the stand. Let's get the homeboy back on the stand just to fill the space, because I like Shido. Let me do this quick. Yeah. Do this, do one of these, increase the opacity. Good enough. Okay. Last thing we'll do quick here is I will quickly discuss the music as music. This is just a quick thing. Oh yes. And say, just strictly as songs, what do I think? Weakness, the first song over here. Weakness is amazing. Weakness is it's definitely in the highest tier of music. Weakness is a fantastic song. Umbilical is a very good song. Umbilical, I'd give maybe like C tier. If Weakness is A, maybe a C. Not to say that it's bad. I think it's okay. I'm just not totally in love with it, but it's definitely a good song. I don't dislike it at all. Bring It On, I'd say B. It's got a crazy energy. Like, nothing has energy like Bring It On has energy. But I don't think it's reaching the complexity. It's not quite striking as much of a raw emotional note that Weakness is, but Bring It On's still good. After Pain, I personally am not as in love with. I'd say it's probably in C tier, but like lower than Umbilical. I just don't really like After Pain too much. It's not a bad song, I wouldn't say that, but I'm not in love with it, you know? Throw Down, Shido is A. That goes right next to Haruka. That song's awesome. It's awesome. It has like swagger. It has like tons of personality. It's also a it also just has like that little. It does a good job at getting a little bit of melancholy that Shido has into it too. Throwdown's an amazing song. This Is How to Be in Love with You. That is D tier. But it's not really because of the composition of the song. It's just because the song scares me. That's really at the end of the day. I can't listen to this song without being terrified. So I'm putting it down over there. Half, which is Kazui's song. Half is pretty good. Half is a bit more divisive. I know a lot of people don't like Half. I like Half. I'd say Half's probably B tier. I think its PV is a little weird, like from an artistic standpoint, but as a piece of music, I enjoy it quite a lot. I very much like Kazui's story. I like the way it's told. Magic is A tier. Amane's Magic is a fantastic song. This song is like crack cocaine. It's incredibly, infectiously listenable. It's so sad because of the irony. It does dramatic irony extremely well, where like the song is energetic, rockin', but it's terrifying. It's honestly quite tragic and sad. But Magic's a fantastic song. Mimi is good. I'd say upper C tier, maybe lower B, right? I'd say, above Umbilical, but not as good as, what did I put in B? But above Umbilical, but not as good as Bring It On. And if people who haven't heard Mimi, it's kind of a gimmick where it fluctuates between genres, and I think that genre shift is a little too extreme. Like, I think it makes listening to it like it's more of a story than a song. Like as a song, I don't really like listening to Mimi that much. If you want to know, of its two halves, I think the metal half is way better. I think the metal half is amazing. I kind of wish it was just that like strong metal song the whole way. But I mean, like, I know what it's doing. It's not like, that's not the problem, right? And Haro is high B, low A. I think it's better than Half, but not as good as Weakness or Throwdown or Magic. If I had maybe a little bit more time to like, it just came out 2 days ago, yesterday. Like, I haven't ruminated it on very long. It very well be that Haro becomes A. It definitely could, but it's up there. I think it's a little basic in its composition, but Aimi's performance is really outstanding. So absolutely fantastic song. And Undercover I didn't talk about because Undercover is not a prisoner song. It's not telling the story of a murder, but it's sort of just introducing every character. It came out first and just goes, here's the cast. What do you think about them? And Undercover is A tier for sure. Undercover it's an amazing piece of music. Undercover is one of the best. I think it's in contention for best song in the project. Absolutely. But other than that kind of sums up things. Are there any? Let's see if there's any questions about what we've discussed here before we shut it down. Ugh, had to talk for a long time. Does some damage to your throat. Let me turn off Ace Attorney. Whew. Yes. Undercover is top tier. Undercover is definitely top tier. Let me turn this off so we can look at the beautiful man himself. There he is. Look at Shido. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. He's a guy. Undercover is really interesting because when you look at it, you see that it straw poll when. Yeah, I definitely just forgot to do that. Sing you a MILGRAM song? I don't know about that. Nothing as refreshing as Gatorade Zero that you empty and fill with water. Is S innocent or guilty? S is not I don't know anything about S. No one knows anything about S, so no one knows anything about S. So I can't tell you if S is innocent or guilty. I don't have a picture for S, but let's just pretend Shido's S for a second. And he is innocent, forgiven, because S is good. There's also like a thing that S might be like a girl. No one knows S's gender, so S could be a boy or a girl. I'm very curious as to what happens with S, and I think it's likely that like Kotoko is the last song in the first trial, but I think before like second trial starts, there will probably be another S song that goes into S as a person and what that happens. And yes, as someone said, like there's lots of details that are not clear, right? At the end of the day, like lots of things could go multiple ways, and all the interpretations are really just that. There's lots of vague things. Like I said, with going through it, a lot of the ways I think about people could go in various directions depending on what actually happened. It's not clear with a lot of these cases what actually happened with Mahiru or with Mikoto or with Kotoko, definitely with Amane, right? There's lots of missing pieces that stop you from getting like a full view, and that's just part of the intrigue there. Personally, who's my favorite character in terms of personality? It's Shido. Like, now, Shido's definitely my favorite character. Let me take this down. My favorite character is Shido, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Shido is the best character, and he's my favorite story. Yes, I do love Shido. Will Stetson throw down when? No, probably never. No, the only thing I wrote is undercover for MILGRAM. S is more of an NB. Is more like NB. Who's NB? Does your favorite MILGRAM song go harder than your favorite Kagepro song? Interesting. Well, my favorite Kagepro song is Aino's Theory of Happiness, and Aino's Theory of Happiness doesn't go hard per se. If I think about the hardest Kagepro song, and not like my favorite one, I don't know. What's the hardest Kagepro song? Outer Science? Maybe? I don't know who goes harder in a strict musical sense in that regard. What do you think of the title of the project? MILGRAM plays into the project itself. I think it's pretty simple. I think it's just referencing the MILGRAM experiment. If you don't know the MILGRAM experiment, look it up. It's definitely a very interesting study. It was a case study that talked about a person's capacity to inflict harm on others. And in this sense, the people being studied are not the prisoners, but us. We are the ones being studied. The MILGRAM Song Project is testing our capacity as an audience to forgive people, which is why it's incredibly fascinating. Oh, non-binary. Okay, cool. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, no one knows anything about S. S is a big mystery. Lost Time Memory is a good song. I think if we're just talking about like going in, Outer Science probably goes in more than Lost Time Memory, but that's no protocol against its quality as a narrative. Search for lies, dissecting thoughts and whys, and we wasn't worth it. The gag wasn't worth it. Oh, Rosina's right. No, Rosina's right. The song that goes in the most is Days. I'm a big sucker for any time a song just like shoots nonsense English phrases at you. So the let's play, ikane second day, let's days, matine day, it just flies away. It's like Common Heroes, the Shuen no Shiori song, where it just goes right about bright, kimi no mokoete, try, like it's just spewing English at you, and it doesn't make any sense. It's not trying to make any sense, but it's beautiful. Definitely what I think. Would I say that Mu and Kotoko are the ones you are not sure about yet? The people that are most on the fence, I'd say, are Kotoko, Mu, and Mikoto. Those are the three people that I think really need more details. I would say that those three I really could change my mind on, depending on knowing more information about them. Who do you think would win in a free-for-all fight with all the MILGRAM characters excluding the funny jackalope? Because honestly, what the fuck is he gonna do? Kazui or Shido? No, it's Mikoto. Mikoto's gonna win in a brawl. Mikoto or Kotoko. I guess it depends on who wants to win more, but probably Mikoto. I'm gonna say if it's a fist fight and everyone's trying to win, Mikoto's winning that fight. Days goes harder than Outer Science. Thoughts on Shido's pants? What can I say? The man's got drip. the man's dripping more than the freaking Antarctic ice caps, man. Shido's got drip for days. They call this man Young Aquafina. Just look at him. MILGRAM Battle Royale. Let's see here. You think Kochiko would beat Mikoto? I don't think so. Kochiko's girl boss for sure, but Mikoto, he seems like he's a fucking crazy psychopath. So I don't know about that. Yes, Futa would talk a big game, saying like, "I would win in a fight. Don't worry. We come to blows. I'll beat you up." But then like Shido would look at him and he'd faint. That's what I think would happen to Futa. Isn't Kazui, since it was states about something about fighting? Oh, Kazui said he likes like judo. I guess it depends on how much he's trying to win. Kazui would be a good contender. Kazui definitely a contender for winning the Battle Royale. Just talking about Shido's drip. Shido definitely is the drip god. No one's got better drip than Shido. Second to Shido, who's got the best drip? I don't know. Kazui? Probably Kazui. No, it's Kochiko. Kochiko's is second best drip. Definitely second best drip. If Kuroha went against the whole cast of MILGRAM, who would win? Kuroha would win. Kuroha beats anyone. Come on, man. That's not fair. His flower shirt, on the other hand, that's drippy. I don't like drippy. I don't like drippy as an adjective. Would jackalope taste good if you cooked them? Yeah, rabbit tastes good. Rabbit's good. Amane would win because no one would want to hurt Amane. Most useless would be. I think Haruka would probably be worse in a fight than Amane, because Haruka would not be able to. Actually, maybe not. I don't know. I think I'm not giving Haruka enough credit. Futa's Twitter fingers are unhinged. I don't like Twitter fingers. I don't like the sound of that. Yeah, I wrote. If anyone somehow doesn't know, I wrote lyrics for Undercover. I translated Undercover. That's my other part-time job is being a translyricist. And I wrote translyrics for Undercover, the MILGRAM song. You can find it on youtube.com/WillStessen. I don't remember my lyrics at all. Beg for life to second thoughts and wise, and you search for lies within this overtime, but it's in a bad key. It's either too low or too high for me. Actually, I could probably sing in the right key, in the right octave. I mean to say, but anyway. Jackalope cooks all the meals in MILGRAM. Is that part of the lore? I guess so. Yes, Moo is definitely physically weak. I like how the MILGRAM Battle Royale has been the main point of contention here, the lasting point. What is the normal octave of Undercover? Let's see here. Oh dear. Ba 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 ba. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Stalker bitch would win against Shido. I don't know about that. Mahiru doesn't seem like she's good in a physical fight. Hey, don't knock the homie S. I think in a fight he might do okay. He might do all right. Yes, it is bad to admit that, the Kagura 24. Beg for lies, the second thoughts and wise and... What are my lyrics? Thoughts and wise and you search for lies within this overtime, but... It's the only lyrics that you need. I won't defend my singing, but I will defend my lyrics. My lyrics are the only ones you need. No, the best line in my Undercover lyrics are "Is justice really blind?" It's the only one I'm really proud of. The only one I think about from that time, from that set, is good. I really like the phrasing of "Is justice really blind?" Just imagine S would win against a child. I don't know. I think Amine would probably be able to beat S in a fight. I don't feel like S is a fighter. That's not the feeling I get from him. Don't hit me with... Don't you dare PN at me. The Kage Bro 24. I only see a... Don't hit me with a PN. Yes, S is a child. Amine is also a child. But I think Amine would probably beat up S. That's all I'm saying. Amine smiles and everyone has a heart attack and fucking dies. The end. Now, Haruka did kill a dog. And probably a woman. So, I mean, like, he's got skills. He's not worthless. You know, everyone's got their ups and downs. Let me play, while we ruminate here, let me play a fun little tune. There we go. Just have some ambient music. Yeah, piano's the worst. Get piano out of here. And uses physical force like half of the prisoners in the voice drama. Yeah, but like he's a kid. I think they're just not trying to fight a kid, you know? Who's trying to fight a kid? Not me. Any mentally unstable person with a rock is good. I don't know about the purgatory theory, but just hearing its name, I can guess what that probably means, and I don't like the sound of that. No, I don't like the idea that this is like Angel Beats. If that's a theory going around, I don't support it. Apparently, Futa protects Haruka? Well, good for him. Can I ban the PN? I hate PN. Oh no, I closed Umaneko. Let me... Yeah. Hi, Shidu. Just two kings looking at each other. Don't mind us. Just two kings. S killed all of them. That's a theory. I definitely think that just to theory craft a little bit. I definitely think that S has something more to do with everything. Like when I made the MILGRAM video that I made a long time ago, when there was only umbilical and weakness, I'm pretty sure I talked about how, like, in Undercover, you see that S has a box, like a memory box, just like everyone else does. Like, there's definitely more going on with S that we just don't know yet. There's definitely something going on there. He definitely has some connection. Something to someone. Haruka or Haruka, which is your favorite? Definitely Haruka Kokonose, but that's not fair. I've read multiple books that have Haruka Kokonose in them. All I have for S is, or all I have for Haruka Sakurai is weakness, and that's not fair. But Haruka Kokonose, if I have to choose between the two of them right now. Yeah, the oops, everyone's actually dead. Not a good plot twist. Not a fan, generally speaking. Let me check something quick here. Rewatch their MVs. Yes, their MVs are definitely good. Yeah, Undercover's a bop. Undercover's like in contention for the best song. How can we send this off? Who has a good idea for how we can send off the stream in stream with a bang? You know what I'm saying, dog? Who do I want to give a hug to the most out of everyone in the MILGRAM project, based off how much they probably need one? How much they need one? Amine. Amine? Amine. Amine? Maybe Haruka? Probably Amine. Honestly, maybe Kazui. Kazui's got he's got it bad. I feel very bad for Kazui. Like, I feel bad for Kazui in the sense that Kazui feels more than anyone else like he's suffering. Kazui feels very, like, he feels like he's racked with guilt more than anyone else. I'm changing my answer to Kazui. Kazui's the best. Kissing Shidu? Which way? Which way? 1 second. 1 second. Sing the Sicko song? What is the Sicko song? What does that mean? What is SYCOS? Sing the Psycho song. Sing a MILGRAM song. I don't think I can. I don't know any of these songs. I could sing Undercover, I guess. I guess I could. Kazui is Akasaka. That explains why he's such a Chad. You'd hug Yuno? Yuno probably needs a hug. A lot of them need a hug. But Kazumi, I think Kazumi needs a hug the most. Oh yeah, Shido's the best. We simp for Shido all day. Oh, you want me to sing This Is How to Be in Love with You? That's never happening. I don't know the words, and even if I did, I would never sing that song. That's just not something that's gonna happen. What is... let me see here. Yeah, I'd die 1,000 deaths before I had to do anything. Before I had to be anywhere near Mahiru. Get him away from me. Who would I slap the hardest? Mahiru. Kazumi gets a hug, Mahiru gets a fist. That girl's got some problems. I wish there was a ballad. There's no ballads. There's no MILGRAM ballads. I nan desu yo. I hate that. I hate Mahiru so much. It can't be understated how much I hate Mahiru. How bad Mahiru is. I nan desu yo. Girl's got problems. The girl's got problems that I can't fix. That I can't fix and I don't want to fix. Any thoughts on the MILGRAM covers? What does that mean? Just people singing the songs? I don't really know many MILGRAM covers. I know the Will Stetson cover of Undercover. I know the Omaru Polka cover of Undercover, which is pretty good. But I don't pursue covers of MILGRAM, so I don't really know. How do I feel about S's steadily declining mental health and raising confusion with the entire situation about the voice dramas? I don't really know about the voice dramas. I like S though. S is great. S is a girl boy boss. What dynamics do you think would be interesting to see among the prisoners? Futa and anyone? Futa seems like an interesting guy to be around. Shidu is as a dynamic, maybe not. I want to see Futa cancel Mahiru. That's what I want to see. Let's see here. Yeah, it's not it. Every album in MILGRAM comes with a cover of a Deco 27 song. Oh, like the Seiyus singing a Deco song? You mean? Like the MILGRAM Seiyus singing a Deco song? If so, I haven't heard any of them. But that's neat, I guess. I'd be interested to see what Deco songs they are, because I can very much give or take Deco 27. But if there's a cover of MKDR, I'll take that. MKDR is amazing. Didn't Futa give Mahiru a tomato for her birthday? I don't know about that, but if he did, that's some king shit. Futa's just based. Kazumi did Coward Mont Blanc? That seems crazy. That doesn't seem like it should be the case. I don't know what I would have Kazumi sing, but it wouldn't be Coward Mont Blanc. Haruka 2 Breaths of Walking? That sounds alright. S did Hibana? That's not bad. Favorite chorus from MILGRAM is probably Undercover. Beg for lies, the second thoughts and wizen. You search for lies within this over time, but Undercover really slaps. Let's see if there's something I can sing you all to bed with, a lullaby. Bum 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 bum. No, yeah. Like I would assume the covers wouldn't have anything to do with the personalities. I just think it's interesting that I wouldn't associate Kazumi's voice with Coward Mont Blanc. You know, like he has a very baritone voice, almost bass, I'd say. Like he's definitely not a tenor. He's like he might not even be a baritone. That guy's almost bass, like a bass. And I wouldn't expect him to do that. Which is why I find it interesting. I don't like Otome Dissection. No, I'll definitely search out, at least search out the song list. Like I said, I can give or take a lot of Deco's songs. So, yeah. But, yeah, generally speaking, that's alright. What's a song? What can we do here? Do I know this song good enough to sing it? I'm starving, by the way. What everyone have for dinner? What's everyone going to have for dinner? I'm probably going to have ramen. Instant ramen. Best way to feed a human being, as far as I'm concerned. Let's see here. Yeah. I can briefly turn my phone light off. Noodles drool. I don't like the sound of that. Who do you think would probably commit tax evasion? Let me think. Who would commit tax evasion? Forget everything. This is the important question. Who would commit tax evasion? Mikoto would definitely commit tax evasion. Of that, I have no doubt. I don't think there's anyone more likely to commit tax evasion than Mikoto. Amane would commit tax evasion? I think Mikoto's definitely committing tax evasion, for sure. Shido could definitely commit tax evasion too. But I think Mikoto would, Shido would do it if he had to. Mikoto would just do it for fun. He would do it without anyone, he doesn't need to. He would just do it. Mikoto would commit tax evasion all day long. I think I will sing you all a lullaby and then call this night. Actually, I'm not singing for all of you, because all of you, who cares? I don't care about all of you. I'm singing a lullaby to Shido. Shido. Shido is my favorite human being, so therefore I will sing him a lullaby so he may have sweet dreams. Shido. Shido. You know, we haven't known each other for very long. I need to turn this down. Shido, we haven't known each other for very long. You're a good guy, but you know what? I trust you. I think you're a straight shooter. I think that you had a rough hand, and being torn apart was destined. No, that's the wrong lyrics. Wait. Wait, crap. 1 second. I was trying to give a speech. I was trying to give Shido a speech. Being torn apart was fate, it seems. Everything was to the script, flowing naturally. But my weakness just won't let me accept all the facts. My heart can't go along with that. I'm adding up all the numbers that make up my life, just watching as they slowly vanish from my side. Soon enough, I'm alone without courage to fight, the will to step to the light. That melody I wrote you and sung by your side is now a broken love song with the sorrow underlines on the wind. I'll send it so far and away to when I once had held your hand upon that simple summer day. My love for this man. Ah, what a good guy, Shido. He's a good guy. And growing close, it seems, was destiny. Everything was to the script, all flowing naturally. If our lives had decided the fate of us two, could my heart stop its longing for you? I'm adding up all the numbers that pass me on by, just watching as they fighting tears them from my side. In the end, all the color is gone from my life. Can I still step to the light? That melody I wrote you and sung by your side is now a broken love song with the sorrow underlines on the wind. I'll send it so far and away to when I once had held your hand upon that simple summer day. Singing the ballad version and being breathy, like, it's too hard. It requires too much from my lungs. Oh, but it picks up at the end, don't worry. Kimi no mimi o me yo kokoro tori nuketa mono tsubete o itsuka shiru koto ga dekitara tsugi wa chanto kimi o aiseru kana. No. Wind up. So stupid. That's MILGRAM, baby. MILGRAM is a story of love and passion, where we learn to love. And I learned to love today. I learned that I love Shido. And if you don't love Shido, all I'm saying is that Shido would probably kill people to give me organs. Can you say that about you? Will anyone kill to give you organs? I don't know, man. I don't think so. But Shido would kill to give me organs. And that's all that matters. What a guy. Bright flash. Goodbye, Shido. Yeah. Put me back on the stand. And that, everyone, was MILGRAM. I'm probably going to go and I'm probably going to make a more visual breakdown of some of the elements in the thing in the songs. That will probably be a scripted video. It probably won't be live like this. I don't really know what else I'll do if I'm sure I'll do something again live like this. I don't really have any idea in particular. I think the Kagura 24 is making another 150 Vocaloid songs, so I'll probably rank those because why not? Besides that, I don't really know. But Shido's a good guy. Find a man who will kill to give you organs. Exactly, Rosina. That is pretty much all that matters. And that's all that matters. Shido's got it covered, man. That's all I gotta say. Ugh. But my throat hurts. And join us next time when I don't know what we'll do next time. Rank Vocaloid songs? Something like that. Mambo P Marathon? It's more likely than you think. That's all I gotta say. Yeah, I don't know if Shido and I are married. Maybe for tax purposes. Maybe to get that tax cut, that sweet tax cut. Maybe. Don't quote me. The Kagura 24 is almost done with it. Hey, all the better. So we can do things. When's the after party? Yeah, I'll stream an after party for me and Shido's wedding. Shido's got it undercovered. Rosina, Rosina, I like you a lot, but that. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. But yes, everyone go listen to all of the MILGRAM songs because they're all really good. Some of them are more good than others, but they're all pretty good. Mambo P Marathon, more likely than you think. Kashidoki-san, more likely than you think. A clingy Mahiru sticking for 15 years, more likely than you think. Listen to Mambo P too. Not that is anything to do with MILGRAM, but, it's worth it. Anyway, see you later, children. I hope you all have a good day. The takeaway from this, Shido's innocent, man. Just look at him. That's all I gotta say. Catch you next time.